Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show. Hey Magic Makers, it's this week's iTunes review. Amy W. Fitness says, Kim knows her stuff. Keeps it real on all levels. 5 stars. Awesome podcast series on relatable topics that women deal with. Kim's advice, along with her sense of humor, is what everyone needs to find their fit girl magic. Well, thank you so much, Amy W. Fitness. That warms my heart. If you haven't yet left your review, please head over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and hit rate. And then hopefully it's a 5-star hint and leave me a review. Thanks. Woo, Magic Makers. That just was such a powerful phone call that I was with Miss Ashley Mitchell. There wasn't a subject we didn't hit on. And I just absolutely adored this conversation. We talked about being unapologetic, the difference between resilience and reliance, and how do we transform ourselves from our past and use the courage to choose different, use the courage to be different. And man, oh man, just have a listen and tell me what you think of this conversation. You know, we also touched about what it's like to be Black fitness instructors in a predominantly white city. So like I said, there wasn't a subject that we did not hit. We talked about what it feels like to be, living in Corona times. And are you leaving the house? Are you not leaving the house? So it's such a beautiful conversation. Have a listen and enjoy. All right. So Magic Makers, I'm always excited because talking to people, I'm really good at it. So that's why I started a podcast. But this woman, I met her on Instagram and we just I was just we had a very similar paths. And she runs this nonprofit called the Courage Project. And courage is my favorite word because everything we do in life takes courage. And many of us have these grandiose plans that we want to do. We want to be healthier. We want to have a business. We want to have a mate. We want. But our feet are glued to the fucking floor. And we don't have the courage to make it happen. And I love the project that she's working on because she's working with people who are young. And that's when the courage has to start. Because as we get older, we get scared. We get scared and we got more to lose and we don't want to make any changes. So without further ado, Ashley Mitchell.
What an intro. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone.
It's true. Courage is my all-time favorite word because it's courage that gets you to do anything.
Yes. I mean, that's the entire sort of premise of the Courage campaign, which is this is the sort of basis of how we live life, like you said, and everything is all about transforming your fear in order to be able to accomplish the things that you set out to do. We're always going to be afraid. That's never going to go away, right? But knowing when it's that excited fear, not that I'm scared of my life fear, but that level up fear, that's the courage that we're talking about.
Right. And I think so many people get confused because they think they say your goal should scare you a little bit. And like you said, it's not being in a cage with a tiger.
it's like,
Yeah.
because that's just stupid.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
But it's like, okay, it's maybe like walking closer to the edge of the tiger cage.
Yes.
Where you're going to be, it's going to feel a little dangerous, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah. I have this incredible book by this man, Gavin DeBecker, and it's called The Gift of Fear. Ooh. And it's one of my favorite books because he talks to you about mostly the bad fear and how and how we have these cues that are sort of innate to us as humans that tell us, when you have like a foreboding feeling or you have a gut feeling that like a situation just doesn't feel right or it's kind of like dangerous or he interviews all these like victims and FBI agents and every single person says that like they felt like something wasn't right. And that was like, literally from women who have been attacked or raped or right, like unimaginable things happening. There was always this like sense of foreboding. And I'm saying that because whenever we talk about goals should scare you a little bit, there's never like a foreboding sense, right? You never feel like my life is in danger. I should hold on to my handbag a little bit tighter. I should cross the street. Like those are not the feelings that you feel. So like learning how to parse through those cues within your own being, I think is one of the keys to like knowing, is this something that scares me in a good way or is this something I should literally be running from?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right because I think so many of us, okay, there's two parts to this. So many of us aren't in our bodies.
Yes.
So we don't.
So you said that.
We don't know, like, one, I don't know what it's like to feel good. So then I probably don't know what it's like to feel scared, like grab my handbag, or scared, like charged up because I'm excited that I want to try this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, I think first getting people into their bodies, which, you teach group fitness as well. And in the 55 minutes that I have of your time, I try to teach you how to feel things.
Right. And like that, a lot of us, this is, I think, one of the great things about quarantine. And I know like some people are probably going to roll their eyes, but to be able to slow down.
Yes.
Do you know how much work I've gotten done in these past couple months?
I got to tell you, I know so many people, it's 50-50. Either you're like, fuck quarantine. Yeah. I've been like, quarantine has caused me to like reevaluate a lot of stuff. Yes. And I was busy for a really long time.
Yes.
And I thought I was like, I used to be a hustler and then I burnt myself down to the ground and then I stopped. And I thought I was like not hustling, but quarantine was like, girlfriend, you were just on hustle on 2.
Yes. And it's like, it's made me think like, we get to where we need to get, but I was like, wow, I was wasting a lot of time and I didn't even know it, but now I know. And now I'm going to correct that path whenever I decide to leave my house, which will probably be never, but
Oh my God. I realized like, everyone's like, oh my God. I'm like, you know what? I've been quite content.
Yes. Oh my, I feel like we're kindred spirits.
Yes. I was like, I didn't realize what a like homebody I was until I was forced to stay home. Yeah.
This is me, 100%.
And I was like, most people will say, oh, Kim, you like to travel. Yeah, on my terms. Like I go away for like a week and then I come home. And then I go away for a week and then I come home. But it's like, my house isn't bad. And it's funny, like my husband's company has always been very hybrid, like work from home, wherever you want to work. He always was like, I have to go to the office. I must go to the office. And then he's like, this ain't bad. He's like, I don't have to deal with traffic. At like 5 o'clock, he's sitting in our kitchen listening to music. He's like, this is just a lovely way to live.
Yes. It's just, oh my goodness. I there is like a certain amount of privilege to like be able to enjoy your home environment. So like, I do understand that. And I don't want to deny that not everyone is living their best life.
Right.
But I am. And there are so many things that I want to hold on to from this time. Yeah, like forever, not just in the immediate future, but there are so many things that I want to hold on to like for the rest of my life, because I'm learning major lessons right now.
Oh, this time has given me a lot of time to reflect and a lot of lessons. And I've started to kind of go back and teaching a few classes. And I was like, 2 days a week.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to be there every day, 2 days a week. Yeah. No drama. I'm like, I'm here, I'm jumping around, and I'm leaving.
Right. I'm curious. I want to ask you, like, because there's a certain level of trust that you have to have in yourself and your capability in order to say, this is my new working normal. So like, how did you not dive into a mindset of scarcity, right? Like having less, doing less, like what, right? Because as people who like freelance or, business owners, we're always looking for ways to make money and to create relationships, and like, yeah, it can be scary sometimes.
It's funny because it's like now, as in the fitness world, we literally, like, restaurants as well, but we were literally like pulled out of the pool. Yeah. Like, everyone get the fuck out of the pool. Like, don't go. Like, and I feel like when I first started, shout out to John Fury. You are like my spirit animal. I love you to pieces. He was like he was like the sage trainer. And he always said to every single one of us, he's like, you need to have multiple streams of income. He's like, I don't care what it is you do. This place can't be your only place you get in money. And this was like 2008. He said that to me.
Wow.
So this was like back when, this is right before the whole market crash. So like 2008, he's like, everyone needs to have multiple streams of income. And you're like, okay. And so at that time, you don't know what it means, but like at the time I started doing some dabbling online. I didn't know it was going to turn into this, but like, it was just like, all right, I'll take some online clients. And it just was like, I always had my hands in different things, because you've been in fitness or any business, like something always is going down and something's always going up.
Yep.
And like you, I always had that scarcity mindset of like, especially when you start working fitness, you are like, I need another class. I need another class. I need another class.
Yes.
And I was like, I was like, all right, I was training, I was teaching, and he's like, do something else. And I'm like, okay. And he always had that chip in my mind. And I've been grateful that I did have something else, because literally I went to work on Monday, Tuesday, no one was going to work anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I was naive to think, I'm like, we'll be back by April.
Yeah.
I didn't teach my first live class until Sunday.
Wow. How did that feel though?
It was so like I'm driving there and I'm like, this is kind of weird. Like, I've been teaching some Zoom classes and Zoom's so different. Like, I'm in my basement, like, hey, do this, walking around. And I'm like, oh shit, there's people here.
Yeah.
And, for the most part, like, we were all distanced. I was wearing a mask. And of all the places I teach, like, that's the safest I feel, because like, they are like, we're not messing around. Like, no one's going to come in here and say, I got Corona from me.
Right. Okay.
So other places I teach, I'm probably not going to go back to, because they were dirty before I left. So right. I can only imagine they're going to be maybe like 5% cleaner.
Got you. Yeah. Yeah. I'm one of those people who I'm not ready to be back in person yet. I definitely feel pressure to be, but I'm just not ready, and I don't feel safe yet. And, I don't feel safe in the grocery store. I, only go to the beach early in the morning and then leave when other people start to come. Like, yeah, it's just, yeah.
And that, I always say to people, like, you have to like do you. Like until 2 weeks ago, I would go to the grocery store, but again, it was at 7 a.m. As soon as like the doors open, I was in, I was out. There's maybe 10 people in the store. So that's how the bubble I lived in. And we went on vacation, and I was like, shit, what's going to happen? But everyone was wearing a mask, and like everyone was like keeping their distance from each other. So it was like, we picked, I mean, granted it was in the state of Massachusetts. I don't know if I would go to like Texas.
Right. Yeah.
But everyone had a mask on, and everyone was like very like mindful of your space.
Okay.
So so I was like, it started, my anxiety started here, and then like was like, okay.
Yeah. It's going to be a journey, girl.
It is. And it's like, but it's funny because it's like, here it is, it's courage. It was like, it's courage. Like, I didn't leave my house for a month. And then I was like, well, I'm sick of eating the same shit. So I'm going to venture out to the grocery store.
Right. Yep.
So that's, I think same with in-person fitness. I mean, I used to take 40 people in a class, and now it's 12.
Right.
So, and everyone there, I'm like, if anyone doesn't feel comfortable, like, feel free to tap out. Like this is you. Like,
right.
We're running classes because we're now allowed to, but you have to feel safe. And some of our classes you are required to wear a mask. Other classes you aren't, and it's noted on the schedule. So if you're like, I'll throw caution to the wind and take off my mask, or I'm only going to a class where everyone wears a mask.
Right. I mean, that's good. It allows people to train at their comfort level.
Right.
Because I also think too, you never know what is going to come up for people until they get into the room, right? They might feel one way at home and then get there and be like, oh, no, this is not for me yet.
Yeah. We made it very like visual that you are not near people. So like it's, before, like any gym, all the equipment is on top of each other. Now the equipment is spaced apart. There's cones where like you're not supposed to be on here.
Okay.
So we make it visual, but then we also show you like all the cleaning crap. Like we leave it out so that that like after you get off, like we're sanitizing this whole place.
Yeah.
I know it's strange times. I mean, July of last year, would we be having the same conversation?
Right. Absolutely not.
I watch TV and I like look at people like hugging and they're touching. I'm like, what are you doing?
It seems so strange now to see regular interactions or to see people on Instagram like having brunch and just like it's almost like Corona never happened. And I'm just like not in that in that headspace yet.
Right. I was like, if I do things, it's outside.
Yeah That's where I like to be.
Inside is very limited. It's like 10 minutes or max. And then I'm like, let's get out.
It's like grocery store because it's a necessity and like, I'm done.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's like, like anything, it's like baby steps. It's like, okay, like the grocery store, it took me a while to feel comfortable, but now I'm like, all right, I go to one grocery store that I feel comfortable in.
Right. Yep. This is not the time to be traveling around
trying
different things.
And usually I'm very adventurous, but when it comes to like getting sick, I hate that. So I do everything to avoid it.
Right. Especially now.
So you guys know me. I am all over the place, but I'm going to do one more all over the place, and then I'm getting back to the point. So when I was listening to your story, my husband is a brownie, and he went to Brown.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
He is a brownie. And it's funny that you went there for acting. He's like, I didn't know we even had a master's in acting. And I was like, but so he is like, his friends are like 6 degrees of separation. And many of them are in the entertainment industry.
Wow. Okay.
That went to Brown. So his really good friend, Allison, was a Broadway dancer forever. And then one of his good frat brothers, he was like the CFO for Babyface Records.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I was like, Philip, I'm like, why wouldn't they? I'm like, think of all the entertainment people that have gone to Brown.
Wow. Yeah. Also though, this may be why he like didn't know that. So the MFA acting program isn't on campus. It's downtown. So
Ah,
so since it's connected to Trinity Rep, all of our classes are like at the theater and then like in the
oh,
surrounding buildings. So he probably never saw any like signs of graduate actors. So we're
ah.
gonna give him a pass on that one.
Oh,
But
he was an engineering major, so I'm like, he spent half his life in the library.
okay, so he would have never noticed anyway.
Right. Unless he happened upon like his friend Allison, who was a dancer. I don't even think he would have known that you could have danced at Brown.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. The totally different worlds.
Very different world. I was like, engineering, acting, not
Yeah.
your.
No, they don't really. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you come up with this Courage project?
So, interestingly enough, it came out of a period of grief. My father passed away about 11 years ago. Like in September. This September will be 11 years, and my upbringing was such that, and this is, I think this is like sort of Black culture in general, like, you know, in general, Black parents don't coddle their children.
Nope.
There's like, just, there's like, and I think it's born out of generational trauma and knowing what we're going to face as we get older. So like, there's not a lot of, being overly protective or putting you in a bubble. It's kind of like, they allow you to fail and they allow you to discover your own courage and your own resilience, right, wrong, or indifferent, right? Like psychologists will say there's good and bad in that. But when your skin is brown, you have to be prepared to be a human in a different way than if it's not brown. And so my dad was a professional boxer, and he also like delivered mail. So he was a postman, and he, his moniker was the punching postman. And it was like, a whole thing. And my mom had us when she was in her early 20s. So she was doing her college thing part-time and like working her ass off. And so I saw in my household really perfect examples of discipline, of hard work, of courage, of all these things, because my parents both just like, and they don't come from particularly like, amazing backgrounds. Like no one's, like there's no one in my family who's like won a Nobel Peace Prize or anything.
Right.
But hard work and upward mobility is really valuable. And so I had these examples growing up, and even when my parents got divorced, and, I saw how my mom was able to, she was the one who like left our childhood home and she bought a house and this and that. So I just kept seeing images of resilience, not that pain was absent, but knowing that like we don't sit in sorrow, we don't sit in grief, right? You have to pick yourself up and keep going. So when we fast forward to my father, passing away unexpectedly, that was my way of living already, right? I knew that as bad as this hurt, I couldn't sit in this grief forever. It wasn't going to bring him back. It wasn't going to change anything. So I tried like what I could. I went to therapy. I loved my therapist. It was amazing. But like, how long are you going to sit in therapy and cry about your dead dad? Right?
Exactly.
I tried medication. I did like the antidepressants, and, I was like smoking and drinking and all the, whatever, shopping, all of it. And what I found was the thing that actually healed me. I put healed in quotations because I think we're always healing. It's right. But the thing that I could lean on was my athletic background. So I wasn't even thinking about being a fitness instructor. Didn't even know that was a job. But, back in the day, we just all went to the gym. Like there were no classes really. There was no like fitness instructor, star.
It was just meatheads throwing weights around.
Just meatheads. So that's what I was doing. That's what I knew. So I would go back to, my athletic roots. And then the creative artist side of me, I would write a lot. And I've written a lot since I was a kid, poems and journaling and songs and all these things. And then when I met my partner now, Mark, who's also the co-founder of the company, we were just talking and trying to parse through, like, how is it that you Ashley are resilient? And I took him through the whole thing, and it was like, wow, maybe we can offer this to people. Like, maybe we can teach people how to help themselves. And I don't know if you notice this with your clients, but sometimes people become so overly reliant on us telling them what to do.
Yes.
Right? So it's like, God forbid you go on vacation or something and your clients are like, I need a workout. I need you to plan something for me. I need you to tell me what to eat.
Yes.
And that, like, while I'm happy to take people's money, it bothers me because I'm like, don't give me your power.
Yeah.
You know
oh my gosh. All right. You're totally my spirit animal. Here is my spirit animal right now. Cause that I 100%, like, let's just rewind, because you said so much good shit right there. Okay. Reliance. Actually, let's back up. You're right. As when you grow up Black, and I didn't, like, I guess because that's just how everyone I knew grew up. So I didn't think of it as growing up Black. It's like, yeah. I remember I would be like, Mom, the teacher said this to me. And my mom's like, well, what'd you say back?
Right. Yes.
And it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to go talk to Miss Maffetone. It was like, well, what did you say? What are you going to do? And it was like, how are you going to stand up for yourself? And, 5-year-old me was like, what do you mean? Now I'm grateful because I know how to deal with conflict.
Yes.
And
there was no like, I'm calling that school. I'm going up to the school. I'm taking you out of that class. That just, like, didn't happen.
No, my mother was like, you suck it up. You go there, you figure your shit out. Like, you had to figure it out, because no one's going to give you the magic key when you become an adult. So I'm grateful for that. And of course, like, when you look back at it and you kind of, like, are reflective, and in today's terminology, like, yeah, because you had to do that. Like, no one paved the path for my mom. No one paved the path for her parents, and so on and so forth. So it's like, you had to pave your own path. And so I could either be the lead plow, or I could show you right now how to pave your path.
So I like that.
Because you weren't like, well, think about now, you work with 20-year-olds. Think about how many of them are you roll your eyes at them. You're just like, okay.
I love them. I really do. They're incredible people. But I'm like, you got to buck up.
Right. You're like, you signed up to be an instructor at 5 a.m. on Monday mornings. Guess what? I expect your rest here at 5 a.m. Like, exactly. I don't care that you got invited to this on Sunday. I don't care.
Right.
Like, this is your responsibility. This is your responsibility. Like, somehow you're going to figure your shit out. So that's one. So I think you're right, because I didn't think of it as resilience, but it is resilience. It's like, for years, we've had to learn the pivot, right? Everyone talks about the pivot and I've never thought of it as a pivot until you brought it up. Like, shit has always happened in my life, and I either could lay down or figure it out.
Yeah.
It's okay to lay down for a minute or two.
You might have to regroup, right? Like, it's okay, but you can't sit in that shit.
Right. So, your dad was a boxer. Everyone's seen the Rocky movies, all of them probably, but I'm going to reference Rocky 3 because I think that was the best. Rocky 3, right? He got the shit kicked out of him from Mr. T. He could have been like, nope, I'm not fighting anymore. Paula Creed was like, motherfucker, you're getting back in that ring. And he got back in that ring, and now we're all like, Rocky, you're the best. That's what you got to do. Clubber Lane's going to punch you in the head. You're going to want to quit.
He was just being courageous and resilient. That's, you know what I mean? That's it.
Exactly.
That's all it was. There was pain, there was adversity, there was fear, there was insecurity, all of it. So what?
Right. And that's life. Like, I can't think of anything I do on a regular basis that I can say when I first started, I felt secure.
Right. 100%.
You know, it's like people will ask me about teaching group fitness classes, and I was like nervous to go back and teach. And my husband's like, well, why are you nervous? I was like, I haven't taught a class in like 4 months. Like, what the hell? And he's like, Kim, he's like, why are you being so weird? He's like, just go in there and just teach.
Yes. And it's just like a whole different, you know, it's still a pivot. Even though you are already a teacher, it's still a pivot to like go back to that room.
I was like, I'm walking in, I'm like, I got a mask on. I'm like, I have to wear gloves. Like, it's just like, I'm like, I can't touch anybody. Like, it's a whole different way of like, now my cues have to be 100% like verbal. It can't be me walking up to you and you know, like poking your shoulder to be like, roll the shoulder. I can't do that anymore.
Exactly. Which makes it, which I know will make us better instructors, better communicators, because we have to be stronger in, you know, it's like you lose one sense and the others become stronger. Like, I think that's what's going to happen. I even noticed when I'm teaching on Zoom, the amount that I have to slow down and not assume that people know everything, can hear everything. Like, I have to assume that my computer is going to freeze and they're going to miss something, or like the sound is going to go out and they're going to miss something. I have to be a little more gentle on them and on myself, because it's just different. And it's not anyone's fault, you know?
Yeah. So it's like, I feel the insecurity. And then when you talk about reliant, you know, I think it's also, I think it's a woman thing mainly. Stop asking for permission.
Right.
Right. It's like, you know, one of my, in my early days, I used to train a lot of fitness competitors, and I purposely never gave you my phone number because I wanted you to like not be so reliant on me. Like, everything was via email. And I remember this one woman texted me. I gave her 2 choices. I'm like, you can have a kiwi or a grapefruit, whatever you can find at the grocery store. She texted me and she's like, I can find both. What should I do?
Oh my God, no.
And I didn't reply back to her. I was like, if you can, like, or is a conjunction. Like,
right.
You should have learned that in 4th grade.
But
so
that's exactly it, though.
So I feel like what you're saying is that people need the courage to know that, like, as we talked about way in the beginning of the conversation, your intuition, like your intuition is going to tell you what's right or what's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think that in our culture today, we're always looking for what's easy or what's fast, right? Yes. So it's like, if I can just ask my trainer,
yes,
I can bypass making a mistake. I can bypass the responsibility or accountability on my own part. It's like, but especially as women, I feel like, you know, your body changes so quickly and so often. Like, I would say once I hit 25, right? I can't stick with the same training plan or the same eating plan.
Right.
Like, even year after year, right? I'm constantly trying stuff and failing. And at this point, I expect that it's just going to be a lifelong endeavor to keep myself healthy, and that I have to be chasing health rather than aesthetic at this point. Like, so yeah, I think, like, I hate to harp on women, because it's not just women who do this, but the bulk of my clients are women. And so that's the bulk of my experience, and the bulk of group fitness classes are women. So, like,
right.
But guys do this too. I just want to say that, like, it's different, but, you know.
Well, I also feel like, you know, the bulk of my clients are women too, and the bulk of the people who listen to my podcast are women. But I feel like for women, we're held to a different standard than men are. You know, if a guy puts on a little weight, or a guy has a little bit of a belly, no one says bupkis.
No.
A guy has gray hair, no one says bupkis. It's they're the old wise guy.
It's almost expected,
right?
Like, for men to age in that way.
You expect, like, you know, to have like the heavier husband and the skinnier wife. Like,
yes,
that's just like, that's what we expect.
Yes.
Now, God forbid the woman puts on 10 pounds, has a little bit of a belly, has some gray in her hair. All of a sudden she's a hag. Like,
Right.
you
Absolutely.
immediately notice that more, and you're more likely to say something and be like, hey, Ashley, you've put on a little weight. Or maybe I might not say it to your face, but we're driving home and someone's like, did you notice how much weight Ashley put on?
Yes. Oh my, I feel like I'm like screaming into the microphone, but that's exactly it. Exactly it. We don't show grace at all.
And we always want to, we're the, like you said, women are the women who pack into group fitness classes to beat the shit out of ourselves because, God forbid, I know you love the Justin's peanut butter cups and those are like the bomb.com.
They're so good.
But because, oh my God, I had those, so I have to make up for it.
That is.
And whenever I hear that, like one of the reasons I think I still teach at gyms is so I can hear stuff to hear, is that still a thing? And like, I purposely like to go into the locker room after class to like wash my hands just because that's just hygiene. But I like to hear what people are talking about before, after class. And when I hear like, oh my God, last night I had like a bottle of wine, so that's why I'm here at class. And I just like, don't roll your eyes too hard, Kim. Don't roll your eyes too hard.
I'm just like, it, number one, it doesn't work that way. Like,
right.
Read a book. It doesn't work that way. And like, number two, I just see, I think this is also just why the fitness industry just is what it is because it preys on people who never feel like they're enough. Mm-hmm. And they just keep coming back and back and back, and they never lose that last 15 pounds. And it's just the same old shit all the time. And if you take a step back and try to look at it objectively, it's kind of sad because people give other people all of their power and all of their responsibility, and then they never get the change they're hoping for on the other end. Or they might get the change, but it's not sustainable. So then there's just this lifelong chasing.
Right. And it's, I always, when I work with my clients, because I'm like, I want you to outgrow me. Like, I want to teach you. I want to teach you to be unapologetically you without feeling like, I'm here at dinner with my husband and I don't know, should I have this? Like, no, like I want you to have the confidence that you can have like these realistic goals, that you're excited about them, that you could fit in a date night. And at the end of the day, it's sustainable without you having to go to, a boot camp class 6 days a week.
Right. Right. That's exactly it.
And so, that's one of the reasons why I was also interested. It's like, it takes courage for you to break free because, most of my women are 40 plus years old. So by the time they roll up with me, they've been on a diet since 15.
Yeah.
And they're stuck in the ways of the 80s. Mm. It's like, you eat less, exercise more, eat less, exercise more, eat less, exercise. And then when you hit the nail on the head, you're like, when I turned 25, my body changed. That happened to me too. And then it's like, when I turned 35, my body changed. So it was like, so now it's like, okay, Kim, every 10 years, your body is going to be like, hey, I'm going to give you something new.
Right. And you just have to roll with it. Right. And that's part of the beauty of our evolution as women. Like it's supposed to change, right? Like literally biologically, like the ability to have children and stuff like that. Like your body changes because we're supposed to procreate and all these things, whether we choose to or not is a different story. But the body does what it's supposed to do, and it just feels like our minds are sort of separate from the body.
Well, yeah, because we are, you kind of mentioned it, like, if it doesn't happen in 2.2 seconds, I'm like, I love you, Amazon. You're like I love you. But we've just been programmed that like, if I order something today, I'm going to get it on Friday. And if I don't get it on Friday, I'm pissed. Right. So I think the same thing about my body. Like I'm going to bed tonight and I'm going to lose 15 pounds. And if I don't wake up on Friday, 15 pounds later, a size 2, I'm off to the next thing.
Exactly. And it's just like, and also Instagram, we see people, we never know what someone is going through to look the way they look. And
Right.
I mean that like a good way or a bad way. Like you don't know who has like disordered eating problems. You don't know who's super healthy. You don't know who has underlying health problems that may cause them to not be able to gain weight. Like we just have no idea what's happening. We just see a picture, we see a six pack, or we see like, you know, a big ass or big titties or lips that are done. And we just think like, oh, that person has something that I don't have.
Right.
And that I want.
Yeah. And, you know, I love the, you know, from time to time you see the like behind the scenes of like how the Photoshop happens, or how like I have to like do these 10 things in order to take one picture.
Yes.
But it's like, I feel like for many people, it's, you know, going back to courage, having the courage to step back and say, what do I want for my life? And I know I had to do that when it came to health and fitness. I was a fitness competitor for 10 years. So like when I didn't have a plan, I was lost. I was like bumping into walls because I was like, I don't know how not to train to look good.
Right.
And it took me a while to just be like, all right, step back, have the courage to try new things. So it was like, I tried CrossFit, you know, I tried all these different things to say like, what makes me happy? Like you, I'm like, I like going to the gym. Like, so I knew it was always going to be something, but I was like, what's going to keep me motivated to keep going to the gym when it's not like looking my best on stage? Like, I'm like, I just want to be healthy for life. Like, that's just the ultimate thing. And open up my closet and put clothes on. Like that's, and having the courage to be like, it's okay if I don't have 6-pack abs. Like, that is, I mean, let's be honest. Like there's like 20% of the world who could just walk around with a 6-pack.
Right.
And that's a genetic gift.
It happens to be the 20% that I see on my feed every day. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like I eat a little thing of yogurt and I look 6 months pregnant, you know, like it just is what it is. That's just not my body.
And, you know, I always, you know, when clients come to me like, oh, my 6-pack abs. I'm like, okay, I'm going to break it down for you. Like 20% of people can have 6-pack abs. Like that's just genetic. They're just genetically gifted. 2 snaps up and a tic tac. But the other part, you have to work so freaking hard.
So hard.
Are you willing to give up wine? Are you willing to give up this? Because if you aren't, that's going to be a shitty life.
Right. Right. And that's honestly, I'm glad you said that, because that's the thing that whenever I start to feel like, oh, my body isn't this or my body isn't that, I have to come back to, well, what am I willing to sacrifice for this body that I say that I want? And the answer is always nothing. You know, like I'm not giving up the glass of wine at dinner with Mark, right? Like I'm not giving up that cheers, right? And like a job well done feeling at the end of the day. I'm not giving up bread and olive oil, right? I'm not giving no, I'm not giving up cheese. You know, it's just, I'd rather have the quality of life and have the things that I love in moderation and maybe have a little bit more of a belly than to not have those things and be this like miserable skinny bitch, which is what I was 5 or 6 years ago.
Right. And I think we all have to be that miserable skinny bitch. Cause I remember before I would go to the beach with my husband, I'm like, okay, I would scour the internet to see what gym was open at 7 a.m. on a Sunday. So I could go to the gym, get in a workout, come back, and then like also prep my food to go to the gym. Like,
oh my gosh.
And I'm like, wow.
People are still doing this though.
I know. And it's so, you know, it's like my mission is to give people the courage that like you can be healthy without that whole box of crazy.
Yes. Yes. And I think that like, you know, and this, I mean, this, I want your listeners to know that everything we're saying ties into like my why for the Courage Campaign. It is all right. Like we haven't gotten off track. This is all true.
Yes.
And this is all like, this is the kind of stuff, like when I say I want to have an impact on people and I say I want to help, like these are the behaviors that, you know, we see that we're trying to like help people see for themselves and correct in themselves. And, you know, I just like, I don't know. I want so badly for for people to believe that, you know, that they're enough the way they are, and that there's nothing wrong with self-improvement, and there's nothing wrong with like, of course, like, gone too far. I mean, being overweight is unhealthy and could shorten your life. And, you know, all these problems, even with COVID, we're seeing like weakened immune systems. Like, I'm not saying just let all your shit go,
Right.
but I'm saying that like there's totally a way to enjoy your life, enjoy your personal relationships, enjoy your body, enjoy the way you experience your experiences, and not to always be thinking about, you know, I can't eat this bun on my burger. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, or saying like, I'm not eating French fries, I'm having a salad. I'm like, you know what? No, sometimes you just gotta have the fries.
French fries, right.
Eat the fucking fries.
Right. My friend Concita calls it blending, not banning.
Ooh, I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah. When she said that, I was like, nail in the head, blending, not banning. She's like, she's a French fry junkie. And she's like, I'm always going to have the fries. So she's
Right.
like, so I would rather lose the bun on the burger and have the fries.
See, I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true balance, right? That's
right.
like, yeah.
And you said two things that I absolutely adore. Belief. And I believe courage. In order to have courage, you have to have belief that whatever it is you're trying to achieve, you can do it. Mm-hmm. And to do that, sometimes, you know, we talked about, you know, like, how could I just like trust in money's going to come? It's like, you just have to like believe that there's something else.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I always think about like, you know, I've been fortunate, knock on wood, that something else has always been in the wings.
Yes.
You know, so it's like the same thing when it comes to your health, comes to your fitness or anything, just courage that, you know what, I can go for this. And not to get too woo woo, but it's like, just believe that like there is a higher power that's like helping
absolutely
guide you.
Absolutely.
If you will, you know, like I think of like life as like a giant like chess game. And so, you know, there is going to be a time that you're going to have to get knocked down a few pegs, but
all the time, yeah.
But you will be able to stay in the game.
But I also think that this comes, for me, I will only speak for myself, but for me, this does come from being raised Black, right? Like we said, you don't know you're being raised Black until you look back and you're like, oh, right? Like I grew up in church. I grew up in a Baptist church, and I did have that belief sort of put into me that like, you are God's child and God takes care of his children. And whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever it is, it's the same thing of like knowing that there is a higher power that doesn't remove difficulty from your life, but like is going to meet you where you are and help you get to where you need to go.
Right.
So I always hang on to that, especially when I feel like I'm in a period of scarcity. I have to trust that like who I am and the work that I'm willing to put in is going to be the thing that like buoys me back up.
Right. Or, you know, I always also look at it when I'm in kind of like the swirl of like, what the hell? I think of it as, you know, this is a test, this is a lesson. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know what the lesson is. I'm like, but I want it to be able faster than it is. But,
always.
Right. But there's a lesson in it. And so it's like, I look back over my life, you know, I think of like places that I worked or people that I encountered that were just horrible. I look back and I'm like, you know what? That I was supposed to go through that so that I could either tell the story, or when I see it happening again, I know that I shouldn't go down that road.
Yes. Yep. That's exactly it. But that's also about being in relationship with your mind and body so that you can recognize what's happening.
Yeah. I'm in a situation right now where I'm like, you know, if I don't set my boundaries right now, I'm going to be a doormat. And I was like, boundaries are up.
Right.
And, you know, it's hard, but it's like, I know, I see the writing on the wall.
And then, so that's your gut talking to you. You know
Right.
what you do.
And I was like, I'm like, yeah, you want to be helpful, but at the same time, you know that this person is always going to find you helpful.
Right. Right. Which means you're being undervalued also.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a difference between being a team player and a doormat. And so and so it's, it's up for you to decide at what point are you going to be a team player, and at what point does it no longer serve your interest.
That's it.
Because the company will always find a way to call you a team player when you're doing 500 things and only paying you for 2.
Hello. Exactly. Oh my goodness.
And then the last thing to bring home is just experience, right? I love that, you're starting this project with younger people, because I didn't, even when I was 25, I didn't have experience, right? We talk about coming into the fitness world. You just see what you see on Instagram. Like, you see the instructors, and you see how like they're like lauded after, like so for example, like right now, like because only classes really people could go to is Peloton. So you see people like tagging their Peloton instructor, and you don't know, let's call her Grace. You don't know that it took Grace 6 months to like get on that bike, and you don't know all the shit she's got to do to stay on that bike, but you just see Grace, and she's like the best instructor ever.
Exactly.
And we don't see the back story of the experience to get there.
Right. It certainly isn't easy, and it's certainly sometimes soul crushing, and it's certainly, long periods of being underpaid, undervalued, especially, if you're, especially when you're in companies that sort of have like a lot of like competition between instructors.
Yes.
It gets like really catty, and really it's hard to trust anyone. And it's just like, and I'm sure every industry has this, but it's just not easy. It's physically taxing, it's spiritually taxing, it's mentally taxing. You always have people coming to you, needing something, wanting something. Most of the time they don't want to pay for it, right? It's just like, you're like this one person show,
right?
That is like never allowed to take a break.
Exactly. Like no one, and you're the bitch if you're like, hey, I'm going to take the weekend for myself. So like,
right. They're like, what do you mean? Where are you going? What are you doing?
Right. And you're just like, I'm a person outside of class.
Right. This like isn't it. Yeah.
Yeah. For 45 minutes, it's all you. But after class, it's the Kim show.
Gotta come back. Yes. That's it.
Yeah. So I knew this conversation was going to go here, there, and everywhere. And you guys know that's how I do.
Oh, I love it.
When people ask me, like, I'll ask people to come on the show, and they're like, do you have a list of questions? And I was like, no, I can give you themes, but I don't even know if I'm going to stick to the themes. I mean, every time someone talks, I'm like, I'm taking notes.
I love it. I prefer a conversation over like, answer this question, answer this question.
I'm like, this isn't a Today Show. Like, I wanted to be like, because like I listened to your podcast. I'm going to link that up in the show notes because her podcast is awesome too. But it was like, I was listening to, if we were at a dinner party and I was hearing you tell a story. And that's, I was like, whoa, that's what I want it to be. Like, we could be at Starbucks wearing, plastic and everything, and spraying the table with Lysol. Right. And someone would overhear a conversation and be like, ooh, that sounds like a conversation I want to be a part of.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I think that this is how we learn. This is how we connect through conversation and through just like getting to know people. That's I'll speak for myself. That's how I like to learn and connect. I don't want to be told something. I don't want somebody to put me in a box, but I'm happy to just like share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think through conversation, it's like someone will say something, you'll be like, whoa, I never thought about, like, you.
Right.
When you were just like how we were raised, I was like, you're absolutely right. Like my mother was like, still to this day, my mom doesn't coddle me.
Same. And I'm like, can I please just like,
Right.
can you please cry with me or something? Like,
right. Like still to this day, my mom's like, what are you going to do about it? Like she lives in Florida, like the hotbed of Corona.
Wow.
And I was like, Mom, well, why don't you just like, you and Larry get in the car. Why don't you just drive north? I'm like, you can stay like a week with, my sister lives in New York. You can stay a week with Tracy. You come up here, just like get out of that like zone. And Mom's like, I'm fine. I got my gloves. I got my hand sanitizer. I got my mask.
I love it. I love it.
I was like, all right.
Yeah. You just find a way to like do the thing and be okay.
Yeah. So I was like, and she, you know, she's 75 and sending me selfies. I'm like,
oh my God, God bless. I love that.
I was like, I'm like, first of all, I was shocked she even knew how to selfie. So.
See, you're as old or as young as you feel.
Right. So she's like, I'm safe. I'm like, okay.
All right, good. Get it, mama.
So I have one last question. What makes you feel magical?
I've been thinking about this, and honestly, what makes me feel magical is this. I want to make this a one-word answer, but I can't. So like, I'm just sorry. You're gonna have to bear with me.
No.
What makes me feel magical is time like this. And so I want to say time makes me feel magical, but like, that's just not deep enough. So like time to continue to get to know myself. And I say times like this because quarantine has been one of those times,
right.
But like time to get to know Ashley makes me feel magical because that's where I feel like I find my power and my direction is when there's no noise and it's me being me, deciding how I want to continue being me.
I love that.
Makes sense at all.
That totally makes sense. I feel like so many of us are, actors in our own lives versus being who we feel we should actually be. Yeah. Like we're like, oh, I should be Ashley group fitness instructor, Ashley trainer, Ashley partner, Ashley whatever, versus who the hell is Ashley?
Yes. And I want all of those selves to always be integrated. Like, right. And I know that a lot of the times our first impression of someone is Instagram or some kind of social channel. And like my thing is that I never want somebody to look at my Instagram and then talk to me and say like, oh, that's a different girl.
Me too.
Right? Like it has to be the same person. There might be different colors and nuances depending on the day or depending on what I'm posting, but like the overall is the same person. And that's what I value.
Yeah, that has been from probably like 15 years ago. Do you know who Wayne Westcott is?
That sounds familiar. I'm not sure that I do know.
He's like, he back in the day, he was like a big fitness person, like shit ton of research. He's actually here in Massachusetts. Okay. So I was finally going to see him speak and I was so excited. And so there, you know how there's like a picture in the bio of like who's speaking. Yeah. So I see the picture of him. I'm like, oh, okay. So I sit in the audience. He comes out on stage. The picture, he had to be like 70 if he was a day. And the picture, he was like 40. And I was like, what the
fuck is this?
Yes. I was like, whoa, like you are just like, he looks similar, but like very, like clearly he was older. And I'm like,
wow.
Do you not send up updated pictures? And from that very moment, this is before social media, I was like, I want people, if you ever to see a picture of me, to be like, oh, that's Kim. And just be able to easily recognize me. And then social media came and I was like, I want people to like read something I posted on social media, see me in person and be like, oh my God, she's saying exactly what she says on social media.
That's
And that's how, that's why I feel like having a conversation with you, I was like, everything I've read from you on social media is one-on-one what we've talked about. Like you have the courage to be like, our first conversation started around George Floyd.
Yeah.
And, since then you were very vocal, like, hey, I'm like, you guys come to my classes, I go to your classes, and you have no problem listening to our music, but not hiring us.
Right. I mean, we can go we could go on for like the next couple of hours about the ways in which, right, like the practices in the industry are certainly, not for the benefit of anyone brown skin.
Right. And so when I heard you speak on that, I was like, it's everything that I've said in my mind, but I never had the courage to say out loud. Mm-hmm. And then, and I don't know what it was about George Floyd that sparked many of us who have, maybe we've whispered it in a locker room, to finally speak up about all the things that we as, Black kids grew up not doing because we weren't supposed to.
Exactly.
And so I feel like you say it so eloquently and so in your face that you can't be confused by what you mean. And
thank you.
And I'm like a shot of tequila. I love it. I'm like, bring it on, because I don't have time to read between the lines.
Yes. Right. Neither do I. And I don't want to be that person. That's just not how I was raised to be, not how I want to be. Right.
And I think in these times, like, everyone needs a punch in the face, because it's been danced around for so long that I think all of us are like, you know what? The curtain's up. Let's just make sure you guys all know what it really means. And, I still get my white guilt calls, but but at least, and the people who do call me, I'm like, dude, it's not you, but at least those people are now more aware.
Yes. And sometimes that's really all you need.
Yeah. It's, like anything, my podcast is all about awareness. Like, of all the topics I talk about, I just want you to be able to make educated decisions.
Yeah.
Because when you know more, you do better.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So I thank you for being you. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm still going to stalk you on Instagram. I'm lazy, so don't worry. I'm not going to show up at Barry's boot camp dressed like you, following you around.
That's okay, because I won't be there anyway. Not forever. I'm not saying I'm quitting.
You're saying for right now.
Right now.
In Rona times.
In Rona times, you don't have to worry about stalking me at Barry or anywhere else.
Right, because I'm a lazy stalker. Yeah, so I won't even show up in your apartment.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ashley, for joining me.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.